Torben Nissen, the CEO of Repertoire Immune Medicines, joins us in the Flagship studio this afternoon. Torben, thanks for being here.
Lindy, thanks for having me.
I think this might be the first time you've been to our studio, so I'm glad you could make it. And we're delighted to hear a little bit more about Repertoire this afternoon.
Yeah, it's been great to join Repertoire, and over the last 2 years, there's definitely been significant developments with the company, and happy to be here today and talk more about it.
Well, let's jump in and start there. I imagine if we had talked to Repertoire 3 years ago, by the time we started the studio, the story that we would have heard then is a lot different than what it is today. So tell us about that evolution and your vision that's driving that evolution.
Yeah, so we at Flagship took a look at Repertoire, strategic look about 2 years ago, a little more than 2 years ago, and really found an amazing platform, the Decode platform, that hadn't been fully utilized, but we saw a lot of potential in that platform to, we think, really revolutionize T-cell-based immune medicine. So we took on a journey 2 years ago in kind of resetting the strategy, rebuilding the pipeline, and really doubling down on fully utilizing the Decode platform, and we'll talk more about that. Another component of the strategy was to really start partnering with large pharma as well, and recognize the value that pharma brings as we're trying to bring medicines to patients.
Terrific. And you focused on cancer. That continues to be an area of a lot of focus, both in terms of the patient need, but then also in terms of investor and partner interest. What are T-cell-based immune medicines, and how can they be applied to cancer?
Yeah. So as you say, we're at Repertoire focused on T-cell-based immune medicines. And the first generation T-cell-based immune medicines, such as checkpoint inhibitors and CAR-Ts, they've had a significant impact on patients, but they're blunt instruments that are applied and often don't really drive the efficacy that we'd like to see. They have impacted patient journeys in cancer, but often 20 or 30% response rates is all that we can achieve. And the reason for that is that people are deploying these therapies in a kind of in a random fashion. And what we decided to do at Repertoire was really to ask the question, well, what if we could understand the controlling node of the adaptive immune system, which is the immune synapse? Would that inform how we treat cancer patients? Would that inform how we design T-cell-based immune medicines going forward? And so we went on this journey, even before I joined, to develop that Decode platform to fully characterize the immune synapse in patients. And that's really, I think, proven to be quite fruitful in terms of how we now think about designing the next generation, and we think improved T-cell-based immune medicines.
You talked a little bit about developing the pipeline. Dive a little bit deeper, double click for us there on the pipeline, what it's looking like, and what are some of the near, maybe long-term milestones?
Yeah, maybe if we step back for a second. So we start with the platform, as we always do at flagship companies. And I will say the strategy to build robust platforms and thereby enable development of multiple products really has borne a lot of fruit for Repertoire. But what we do is understand really what are the disease-driving epitopes that exist either on solid tumors or in autoimmune disease. Once we understand that, we can look at the flip side of the immune synapse and look at the T cells that recognize those epitopes, and we can determine which are the shared disease-driving targets to go after. That's really the foundation of Repertoire. We've then used that information to pull out so-called T-cell receptors directly from cancer patients, converted them into so-called TCR bispecifics. And the great thing about these TCR bispecifics is that they're informed directly by information from patients. They bring in peripheral T cells to the solid tumor environment, overcoming some of the challenges with checkpoint inhibitors, and thereby driving significant response rates. So we now have a whole pipeline of these TCR bispecifics against multiple targets on solid tumors. The first target completely novel and expressed on multiple solid tumors, non-small cell lung cancer, head and neck cancer, colorectal cancer, pancreatic cancer. So really a product that shows great promise for cancer indications with a significant unmet need. But not only that, we have multiple TCR bispecifics coming behind that first program. So we nominated our first development candidate in November, about 18 months after a reset of the strategy, completely starting from scratch. And so I think getting to a development candidate in 18 months and now having the next development candidate coming up here in a couple of months, I think it's really been tremendous to see the team be able to deliver that.
So you've talked about the immune system in cancer, but there's an application here in autoimmune disease, also an area where we've seen a lot of investor and partner interest. So tell us about how you're looking at the application of the platform in autoimmune.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really where the deCODE platform shines. So we're the only company out there that's able to determine so-called class 2 presented epitopes. And now why is that important? It's important because these epitopes are the ones that drive autoimmune disease. So we have an experimental platform that find those disease-driving class 2 epitopes, and we then are able to develop tolerizing vaccines against that. These tolerizing vaccines dampen down the immune system, basically driving immune homeostasis, and could potentially have curative effects, or at least halt the progression of disease. So it's a completely novel way of approaching autoimmune disease, and we think a way that will transform treatment of autoimmune disease going forward. Again, leveraging the platform enables us to do that. So we're able to develop products both in autoimmune disease as well as in cancer. Now you mentioned interest from pharma partners. We've seen a lot of incoming interest in autoimmune disease from large pharmaceutical companies, and we announced an agreement, a partnership with Bristol Myers Squibb in April of last year. I think BMS, known to be a pioneer in immune medicines, obviously with checkpoint inhibitors coming out of that amazing organization, and they're now looking to work with Repertoire to develop equally, we think, transformative therapies in autoimmune disease. So that agreement entails development of up to 3 tolerizing vaccines for autoimmune diseases. Beyond that, we have our own pipeline that we're developing as well. We see a lot of incoming interest from additional pharma partners, and we're hoping to secure a partnership or 2 here in 2025 as well.
Great. And tell us about some of the key strategies that you're taking into the year ahead to execute on this corporate vision.
Yeah, I mean, so first of all, it's important to us to advance a pipeline both in cancer and autoimmune disease. And more specifically, we are taking our first program into the clinic in 2025.
Wow.
Again, an example of, I think, significant progress leveraging the platform, but also a team within the Repertoire immune medicine organization that's just, been hugely productive. So we look forward to getting into the clinic with the first program in 2025. As I mentioned, we have a number of programs coming shortly behind those, and I think another part of a flagship-based company is to not just rely on a single asset, but actually continuously develop programs into the clinic. So that's cancer, first program in the clinic. On the autoimmune disease side, first development candidate nomination towards the end of 2025. And then, of course, it's important to us to execute and deliver to BMS on our first program. So look forward to doing that, as well as hopefully delivering progress on a second partnership as well.
Well, it sounds like a tremendous evolution of the company in the last 3 years, an exciting year ahead. So we look forward to having you back in 2026 to hear more about it. Thank you, Torben.
Thank you, Lindy.